Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Behind and Beyond. This week I am back with Dave. Welcome back to the podcast, Dave.
Yeah, what's up? Thank you. Good to be here.
It's been a minute since you've been here.
It has been, yeah.
And I can't believe we're almost done.
Yeah, 3 commandments left, 8, 9, and 10. So do you know the 8, 9, and 10?
Don't put me on the spot like that. I could, coveting is coming up.
Coveting is 10.
10, man. Okay, I thought that was next.
Don't steal. 8.
Don't steal.
9 is don't bear false witness.
I wasn't going to get there.
So I don't want to act like I'm the Bible quiz champion, but I wrote the series summary and I was just looking at this yesterday. So that's how I remember all of these.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bit of an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the questions today.
What? We'll flip the script this week. Let's see what happens. I love it. I feel like you left everyone on a cliffhanger, so I feel responsible to ask on behalf of Northway.
Yes.
Are you going to Florida?
We are. Wow. Yes. I did continue to talk about the trip because I booked tickets for our family. I mean, Brooke and I did, but I did the electronic transaction. But yes, we are going to Florida. We are super pumped. All 5 of us will be there. Our son Nico will be home on a break from college. So we're going to be able to be down there. And then our family's all down there. So this is our first time going to do Thanksgiving dinner away. Big extended family, like 25, 30 of us.
Wow.
Will be there. So yeah. So you'd be amazed at how many people right after church came up to me, and I'm thinking they want to talk about the sermon. They're like, so are you going to Florida or not? That was inquiring minds wanted to know. Yes.
But people are paying attention.
Well, that's good.
More things than you think there.
That's super humbling to know that.
Oh, that's great. I think but really that as kind of the example that seemed a little almost simple of intention versus, the path that we're walking on. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really strong example and tie in to a topic as intense, I'd say, as adultery. I thought you had a way of making it very digestible for people.
Yeah.
How did you land on that angle of intention versus path?
Yeah, so I'm really, really convinced that whole idea of sitting with couples, talking about this, they want to look at what just recently happened. And adultery never just happens. Like I said, I think I said it in all of the sermons, but you don't just wake up one day and realize, oh my gosh, what did I just do? You were always building toward it. And so it is a principle of a path. And it's a book I read a long time ago. Andy Stanley at North Point Church in Atlanta wrote a book called The Principle of the Path. And it does talk about this idea of intentions aren't enough. So it's amazing to me how something you read 20 years ago or 15 years ago comes back and helps you, God surfaces it. When Jesus promises that the Holy Spirit will remind us of truth, sometimes we think, oh my gosh, I need to study and I need to remember. No, the Holy Spirit will bring it to mind at just the right time. And just as I was sitting down to prep, that book came to mind. I'm like, it was like the Lord was saying, it doesn't just happen. It happened. It started happening a long time ago. Mm. And that's true with any good habit, any pattern in our life. The path is really important to pay attention to. But as Americans, we're so goal oriented. Yeah. We're always fixed on the destination, but you got to figure out is where I'm walking going to get me there? Yeah.
Is there anything that got cut for time? I'm sure there always is from the gutter. Anything you want to share now?
Anything in the gutter? I don't think anything. There were more two-ness, oneness concepts, but I kind of merged them into one. I think I probably wanted to dive a little further into the whole bank account ones because I know some people they have different accounts. It's to me it's access to those accounts. If it's restricted, that would be like a two-ness versus oneness. I wish I would have been able to explain that just a little bit further, but. No, I think I covered, actually this was one where there wasn't a ton in the gutter.
Yeah. Something I love, I feel like I can say just from getting to know you and watching you preach, I know how Project 167 is a huge piece of your heart for Northway. And specifically, I feel like I saw your heart for families and for marriages, I think is an area that God has really gifted you in teaching specifically. Could you talk a little bit about for your heart for marriages across Northway, just as a whole? Maybe is this a time for you to speak into that, something you hope to see God do in marriages?
Yeah, I think there has to be an exchange with our understanding of marriage. There's a cultural phenomenon that says marriage is all about your personal fulfillment, your own satisfaction, This is a person who will come alongside of you and complement your ability to achieve your dreams. And that's not biblical at all. Like, it's not even close biblically.
Yeah.
So that quote I read at the end of the sermon about soulmates are made, not born. Man, I like, a lot of people said to me, and I don't, this is not, I'm just saying what people said,
Yeah.
right? They said couples who are about to get married need to hear that sermon. And I think couples that are about to get married should read Tim Keller's The Meaning of Marriage book.
Great book.
It is great because he actually confesses some things. Like, one of the things I learned by reading that book is you have to relearn how to love your spouse. And he said, you get married thinking you know your spouse. You don't know your spouse.
Oh, yeah. No.
Because we all change.
Yep.
Throw in a new move, throw in a new job, throw in some kids, throw in financial hardship, throw in some sickness, throw in loss of parents. All of us change. And so really the only way to like know our spouse is to be led by the Lord. Ephesians 5 says it's like really our focus is love for Jesus, and then love for spouse is like an overflow or an offshoot of that. We get it so wrong. We just think, I got to try harder. I got to love more, or I need to change my body so that he or she will love me more, or I need to, it's not that. It's love for Jesus. And a lot of times culturally, we build our marriages on the wrong rock, and it's a foundation of sand. So yeah, I am passionate about marriages because I've seen the devastating effect. People that I'm very close with had loss and destruction in their marriages, their parents' marriages or their marriages. And it wreaks incredible havoc. Now, the good news is Jesus restores things. I got some incredible emails this week of some folks that yes, they did go through some devastating things. They did walk down some paths that were more darkness and towards death, but Jesus can turn and will turn when we yield to him, when we follow him, when we trust him. And there are marriages that are remarriages. I actually heard about a couple who raised adult kids, split ways, divorced. They're getting remarried this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
No way.
Like only Jesus.
Yeah.
Only Jesus, not our culture. That's the right rock. Whenever you exchange a cultural definition of what's the point of marriage. Now, here's the other thing. Sometimes when I say that, we think, oh my gosh, so then why would I be married? I'm never going to be fulfilled. I'm never going to be satisfied. No, you will be. You will be. When we do things Jesus' way, there is fulfillment that's found, but it's found after love for Christ and sacrifice. And it's better fulfillment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's really good.
Yeah, so you asked me a question about that. I mean, I just, like, the effects are so clear. We wrap ourselves up in all the problems of the world and really believe that the answers are like political or financial. I think let's go back to the beginning in Genesis and let's look at what institutions did God create? How did he create us? And let's get back to that and let's see what happens. Healthy homes bring a healthy world. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah. I think it was really powerful. You shared the effects of, like you're saying, a healthy marriage, how it affects everything financially,
absolutely,
physically, your like satisfaction, so many other areas of your life.
Emotional well-being,
yeah,
like mental health issues that our kids experience, that we all experience now. Do we need social services? Yes. Do we need counseling centers? Absolutely. Is medicine important? Of course. But that foundation of the family really gives us a stronger footing. If you want to have big dreams and have a really healthy world, your footers have to go really, really deep. We have to deepen the footers of what it looks like to do marriage Jesus's way. If you're thinking of getting married and you're a couple and you're listening to this, take a look at how much time you're spending planning a ceremony and a celebration versus planning for a marriage. It should be flipped.
Yeah.
We spend so much, and talk about dollars.
Yeah.
Like everybody spends a lot of money on their wedding day, and then there's no money for counseling. Man, we've got it wrong, and we've got to flip it on its head and really let God flourish us and keep us in our marriages.
Yeah.
So, and we did it too, man. It's the way of the world. You're caught up in this wind, and we got to have a big party, and we have to spend all this money. You don't at all. Like, where's all that money now?
Yeah.
Like, I can't taste the food now or the wedding cake, but I'm living with Brooke. So I sure better hope our marriage is strong and like this rock that we're building. And it is. Jesus is so good. He is so good. I can't imagine couples being doing marriage today without the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like it's like the great secret, but it shouldn't be a secret.
Yeah.
So anyways, you send me on a tangent. So
that's great.
I'm passionate about it because I believe it's God's heart for us. And we just have to lean in and look and lean away from our culture.
What does that path look like for you and Brooke specifically? I'm sure people would love to, like peek behind the curtain for like the D'Angelo household.
Yeah.
What is that? How do you check that path use your own language, for you and Brooke, for you and your family, to make sure that you are not just living out of good intentions, but you're walking it out?
Yeah. So one of the things I'll say that we do, and now this is probably a little bit easier for me because I'm a pastor and I work at a church. We try to mentor couples who are about to get married. And you think it's all for them. So we literally, sometimes you have to offer this because most couples they don't know that's a thing, or they're not sure if they should ask. If you see a couple who's about to get married, now you're already thinking, well, our marriage isn't ready. There's no way we should. Yes, you should. Because what people need is an honest example. They need a real life story. They don't need a perfect example. I can't connect with perfect. I connect with real. So every single time Brooke and I sit down with a couple to start talking about their preparation for marriage, guess what it does for us? It checks us out. Like we take our cars to get inspected every single year. When's the last time we inspected our marriages?
That's
right?
Good. Yeah.
So it's like, honestly, we are so bad. We just think it's on autopilot because I said, I love you. No, you got to work at this. You got to commit to this. You got to put your resources, time, talent, and treasure there. And so that's one of the things that Brooke and I do. There's a couple that we know we're friends with, and we just offered to them, hey, we would like to do mentoring. If you would like that, we would walk through this in preparation for you. And you take a book like Tim Keller's Meaning of Marriage, and you sit down and you have honest conversations, and you work through it, and you will be amazed at how it sharpens you, how it fine tunes you, how it helps you understand, hey, this wheel's a little bit out of balance in our money, or physically and emotionally, or communicatively. And there's probably a fourth wheel. We're not riding tricycles. There's four wheels, right? See what I did there? So that's one of the things practically that we do. And then communicating that straw, man, that's a big one.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. That hit home for me. I was like, man, that's easy to go unsaid.
It is, and don't do it.
Yeah.
Because then you're exploding over things that happened 3 years ago and you can't remember, but you're still feeling the emotions of them. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Brooke, I love it about her. Like, I love that she said to me, buy tickets or stop talking about it. She needed to say that to me. Yeah. And I needed to be man enough to hear it and not get angry. She was right. Yeah. Amazing things will happen when we're willing to admit we're wrong.
So true.
I'm wrong a lot, like a lot. And I can say it, Brooke is wrong a lot. And it takes the two of us to come together and humble ourselves. And the more you love Jesus, the more that doesn't sting. It's actually helpful. Because I want my kids to thrive. I want my kids to be healthy. I want my kids to have a vacation. And so, communicating that straw, big deal. You got to find the right place. You got to find the right time. Sometimes the more you do that, the more you start to understand, oh, I'm being silly. This was me. It wasn't her. And it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's incredible too to think about the generational impact of that. Something I've been reading, I'm in a small group right now going through the Praying the Scriptures Over Your Marriage book. And they talked about the impact of your children seeing the example of a healthy marriage. And I think that's something that it's easy to forget about now, but your kids seeing the way you and your spouse interact, how that's forming their idea of what, oh, this is what I should expect, or this is what I don't want. Yeah. Either way, I think it adds a lot of weight to it. Yeah. As well.
Kids also need an honest, real example. So Brooke and I, we don't really fight ever. We might disagree, but there is one consistent thing that we have fought about recently. This is going to sound so superficial and so like, oh, that's so perfect, but it was so real and frustrating decorating our house for Christmas outside.
Oh, hot topic.
We're great on the inside, but when it comes to the outside, there is something about that, like where the extension cords go. And Brooke has an idea, and she takes the lead on the inside, and I'm supposed to do the lights on the outside. And then whenever she starts doing something, I'm like, I thought she wanted me to lead. And then I huff and I walk away, and then we start arguing about this. And Mila's there watching. And here's the temptation: like the temptation to say, we're not fighting. Yes, we are. Yes, call it what it is. And then like forgive, walk it out. So don't let the kids see something that looks like fighting, but you don't call it fighting. And then they're thinking like, so what does that look like? No, you're fighting. But then also like ask for forgiveness. Like if you fight in front of your kids, ask for forgiveness in front of your kids.
Yeah.
Right? Like do it like so that they can see, because that honest example. I also remembered something else I was going to say, and I wanted to make sure I brought this. I think, so this didn't make the sermon. So I lied earlier. I bore false witness if I couldn't remember.
We won't hold you to
something
that.
That didn't make the sermon. So when I talked about pornography and sexually explicit material, I really, really am convinced that we're so worried about is it pornography or not, that's where our focus goes, and we think we can manage it. But that's one for many of us. You got to look at what steps am I on. So again, communicating straw. Do you and your spouse have the ability to share convictions with each other? So when it comes to Christian liberties, I think this is really worth thinking through and digging into. I know we're two people, but if Brooke experiences convictions about something we're watching, shouldn't that be my conviction as well if we're one?
Yeah, that's good.
So we were watching a show and we started watching it. Season 1 was great. Loved it. And I'm not going to name the show because I know everyone's convictions are in different spots. I get that, right? We watched season and I loved it. I mean, we chewed through the show, and I love having a show together because we can laugh, we can sit on the couch together. It's just great, right? Season 2, all of a sudden it started to get sexual. And what we would do is we would fast forward through it because we don't want to watch that. We don't want that, to be a part of our lives. And I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but that's where we are. And we wanted to fast forward it. And then when you fast forward through something, you're 15 seconds in before you figure out how to work your remote, right? Yeah. And so the other day, Brooke came to me and I was like, hey, we got some time. Let's watch an episode. And she's like, hey, I know you're going to hate this, but I feel convicted, like we really shouldn't watch that. It's taken us somewhere that we don't, and it wasn't pornography. It was just suggestive. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah. It's just not worth it.
It's steps.
Yeah.
But what is that going to allow me to think is okay next time? Yeah. It's kind of like that picture of the leper and what we eventually grow indifferent toward. Man, that's really, really convicting. So that to me is we've got to be willing to talk through our convictions and where our lines are in terms of, alcohol and sexually suggestive or pornographic material. And so we haven't watched that show and we're better for it.
Yeah.
That was serving Brooke for me because I wanted to watch the show. I love the dialogue. I love clever dialogue. That feeds my soul. But man, it's so important. I'd rather have trust and oneness versus some clever dialogue on a show.
Yeah.
But it's steps. And some of those steps, they seem so innocent. You got to look at where it's leading us. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the heart of service too. You ended your sermon talking about that. I'd love to hear a few more of your thoughts on that.
It's crazy. It's the same path.
Yeah.
We're either serving ourselves or we're serving our spouse. There's not a lot of other options in there. And then when we're serving our kids, we're actually serving ourselves because we parent out of insecurities. We're worried about how it's going to make me look or how it's going to make me feel, right? So ultimately, I narrowed this down. I reduced, that's like fractions. I just boiled it down to the irreducible minimal. It's either we're serving ourselves or we're serving our spouses. And Jesus is clear. It does come down to a lot of, do we believe what he says? And are we willing to trust what he says? The truth. It's the way, and it leads to the life. We're not to be served. We're supposed to serve. And that's what leads to greatness. So when I said earlier, it's not all just sacrifice, there's fulfillment. Jesus said, this is what greatness looks like in my kingdom. It's just a different path. And so the beautiful thing about that was the turn, do something drastic. How about Jesus? Cut it off.
Yeah.
Cut your eye out. We fast forward through that part of the scriptures. We grab the remote and know how to work it then, don't we?
Yeah.
But do something drastic in turn. But the cool thing is it's the same path. One of the other things Tim Keller talks about in that marriage, and C.S. Lewis speaks about this too, sometimes you don't feel love to your spouse. It's true. Bad breath is a real thing. We all have it, right? Sometimes you're in a bad mood and work is awful and you're not feeling the feels. But he said you can serve your way into the feels. The more you serve, the more you'll feel. It's true.
Yeah.
Like try it. Say thank you more at home. Ask your spouse, what can I do for you today? How can I help you? The other day, as I was writing this, of course, I'm preaching it to myself. I'm experiencing conviction over this. And we had a busy schedule that night. And sometimes, man, my days are hard. My days are heavy. And I get home at 5 o'clock and I don't want to do anything. I just want to check out. And we had a busy schedule at night and I just sent her a text. Hey, I'm in to help however I can tonight. That meant the world to her. I noticed, I asked, I made myself available.
Yeah.
And guess what? The feels were there.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah. It's so true how they follow. Sometimes you just have to, force yourself there a little bit, but it's like pushing moving your emotions follow so often. I think we live in
we think emotions lead the way.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's obedience leads the way.
Yeah.
And our feelings follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
well
I think,
stated.
Thank you. I kind of stumbled through that one, but getting to that service so often, I think is connected to honor. And I loved how you said it's more than don't commit adultery. It's work towards honor.
Honor.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the goal. So here's the question. If you're married or if you're thinking or planning of being married, so man, I hope if you're single, you found relevance in the sermon because it's true for all of life, right? The question is, can you wake up every single day saying, how can I honor you? And how can I honor you, Jesus, by honoring you? If you need more motivation, because that's really what Ephesians says. Truthfully, our default mode is waking up every day. How can I honor me? It's humbling ourselves. It's emptying of ourselves as Jesus did. Like try that for a week. See what happens. Just try it. See what happens. I talked to people who did the 60-day fast from social media this summer, and they raved about it. Try for 1 week, every single day. How can I honor you? Knowing you're doing it for Jesus. And the feels are there. They are, and it lifts the household, and oneness happens, and it's a much brighter path to walk.
Yeah. That's good. So I'll wrap us up here as we nearing the end.
Yeah.
Always like to ask before we close, how have you grown to know, experience, and follow Jesus more throughout this topic?
Yeah, this topic it's certainly difficult. It caused me to look at, oddly, some of the intentions I've stated financially in my life. So this principle of the path, while we're talking about adultery, the principle of the path about really good intentions, like we intend to be generous. What's the path look like? Are we being generous? That's pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when you get like a bonus or a raise, you have every intention of being more generous, and it feels good to be generous. What's the path you're walking on? So as we talked about this, we actually had some finance discussions at our home where the Lord is leading us to say, like, you can intend all you want, but it doesn't make you generous until you are generous. So that was the additional convicting part. And conviction's a good thing. Please never forget that. Sometimes we're afraid of that word. That's the Holy Spirit's job. Convicting is a reminder so we can turn, so we can walk further into the light.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dave, for your time.
It's great. Passion Point.
Yeah.
Super excited. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next week.